Chesapeake Bay Blues is what this song's about. What's going on, everybody? I am more than excited tonight. Tonight we have Lenny Rudow joining us on the show. And wait a second. We've got Lenny Rudow from Fish Talk. And we've got, Eric Packard from Fish Talk Art. Wait, what is going on here? Is this a Fish Talk takeover? Is this a free advertisement for Fish Talk?
Apparently.
You know what? It's a free magazine, and I know a lot of guys that work there, and if there was a cause to promote for free, that would be it. But we got a great show tonight, guys. As I just pointed out, Eric Packard's artwork is on the wall. You guys might recognize the largemouth bass from last week. We have a carved piece of driftwood that is a carved snakehead, which is really cool. Next week, we have David Sikorsky of the CCA. Super excited to have him out. And don't want to be remiss and point out the sponsor for tonight's show, Crazyhorse Fishing Rods, not related to me. There's a space between the crazy and the horse. I'm all one word, totally different. But Crazyhorse Fishing Rods is a custom rod and rod repair business right here in Maryland, Port Republic, Maryland. Kelly and David do really great work. They're building a rod for me right now. So if you're looking to get stuff like that done, reach out to them. They're really great. So I'm really honored to have Lenny Rudow on the show tonight. It wasn't, 7 years ago when I moved to this area. This is the first book that I bought. Lenny's standing by right now. He's probably blushing. But I consider this to be sort of the fishing Bible for this area. There's not too many people on my list that have taught me what I know about fishing in this area. But Lenny Rudow is definitely on that list. I'm going to bring him to the stream real quick. How you doing, Lenny?
Hey, Grant. Hey, Anastasia.
So Lenny is a lifetime angler. He is also, as he titled himself, the Angler-in-Chief of Fish Talk Magazine. Tons of information, tons of knowledge. Written. How many books have you, Lenny?
Oh, man. 7.
7 books.
7.
And was the one I just showed off, was this the first one?
The Chesapeake Guide was actually the second one, but it has always been the bestseller, and it's always been the best received.
Yeah, I mean, it's got literally, like, when you talk about, I don't know if spot burning was a bit back in the day, but like if this book was released today, you'd probably have people at your door.
Believe me, Grant, when it was released, I heard about it.
Yeah. So how's your fishing been going so far this year? Any highlights you want to share? What you've been chasing?
Well, just this past weekend, I got very, very excited. I had the chance to fish with our mutual friend, Eric Packard, who does that artwork. And he's got a line on these cutlass fish in the Patuxent. And I got to tell you, honestly, there just aren't that many species left that actually frequent the Chesapeake Bay that, like, I've never caught or I've never even seen. That was one of them. So I called him up and I said, come on, man, help me get on them. And he did. And we caught a bunch of them. And it was really cool. Nifty fish.
Yeah, Anastasia, you've been trying to target.
I'm so jealous. I definitely want to catch one of them.
Talk to Eric.
Looking.
Talk to Eric.
Yes.
They look like dragons.
They do.
Eric had a video today of the head of the cutlass today. It was like rah rah rah. It's kind of scary, but it was awesome. So cutlass, any other good catches you've had so far this year?
I mean, it was nice to get back to rockfish in the last few days. Nothing spectacular. It's been a great spec year. we said a few months ago, from the way things were shaping up, this could be the year of the spec for the middle bay and lower bay anglers, and it really has shaped up that way. It's not like everybody going out all the time is catching them, but if you go out and target them, you absolutely can find them all the way up into the Eastern Bay area, which is pretty far north for them as far as average seasons go. And what's interesting is, while the numbers haven't been massive, with some exceptions, these have been pretty big fish. The average specs have been running like 19 to 21 inches. Nice speckled trout. I don't care where you live. If you're in Texas, catching an average of 19 to 21 inches is nice, if you're in Florida, wherever. So it's great to see it happen. Our fisheries are changing. They're always changing. Throughout my lifetime, they've changed in many, many ways. And you see some good stuff happen and you see some bad stuff happen. Can I tell you something, Grant? Can I tell you something?
Tell me.
This is really disappointing. I don't know if you saw this. I don't know if you got out during the rockfish closure on the open bay, but there were still floaters.
There were still what?
Floaters. There were still dead fish floating around. And of course, we recreational anglers, we've been taking a lot of heat over release mortality, and everyone's been saying, oh, it's the catch and release anglers. The fish they're catching are dying and then floating up to the surface. Well, we were closed down for 2 weeks, and guess what? There were still fish floating around. So it's a little depressing. We certainly have other factors coming into play. We got water quality issues that must be addressed. And I was actually happy to see today that in this infrastructure bill that the politicians are fighting over, they've got quite a nice chunk of funding set aside for the bay. Big increases. So I hope that goes through, and I hope, I really hope we can see some improving water quality throughout the Chesapeake. It would really do us a world of good.
Now, you've been around, this fishing area in this region for a long time. When you've seen money increases like that to be allocated for the Chesapeake Bay, is it often used in the right way? I mean, is it often spent in a way that's going to actually benefit the fishery?
It's like anything else. A certain proportion is, and a certain proportion gets wasted. I think that's a pretty common phenomenon, right? Whenever the government's involved with whatever you're working on, you can pretty much bet there's going to be a little bit of waste in there. But, at least some of it does go to the right needs. And, there's a big need here. There's a very real need.
Yeah. So shifting a little bit, for those living under a rock that don't know about Fishtalk, tell us a little bit about that publication that you guys work on that we all love so much.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words, Grant, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. I hope everybody out there is. We started it up a little less than 5 years ago. It was April 4.5 years ago. And, we had no magazine or really no media entity dedicated to Chesapeake Bay and mid-Atlantic anglers. Up north they have the fishermen. We used to have the fishermen. They left town during the recession. They didn't come back. Down south they have some other publications. But throughout the Chesapeake Bay, along the Atlantic coast, there's really very little. And let's face it, there are a lot of anglers around here. We deserve something, right? It got to the point where, personally, as an angler, I was really annoyed that nobody was paying any attention to us. And personally, I had some shifts in the job world, and I had the opportunity, teamed up with the folks at Spin Sheet Publishing. I met them and got to know them. They had distribution abilities, they had sales abilities, all the stuff that I really just don't know about. It's not the world I dwell in. And but they've been phenomenal partners. They make, of course, Spin Sheet magazine about sailing, and Prop Talk magazine, a general interest boating magazine. Both are good publications, and it really has been a fantastic endeavor. We're really thrilled, frankly, with how it's coming along.
And so, how have you seen it evolve over the years? How long has it been in publication?
About 4.5 years. I'll tell you, the most interesting recent development is the interest from rank beginners. I mean, people who have zero experience. Of course, this is all part of this whole COVID thing that none of us can avoid. so many people started trending outdoors and trying to find cool stuff to do that was exciting and fun. And a lot of them started fishing. And we started to get a lot of questions, a lot of emails from folks who didn't understand things as simple as, what is a bottom rig? Or how do I catch spot? Which for those of us who've been fishing for years and years and years, it seems so basic. But to someone who's never fished, it's totally.
What's a bottom rig?
What's a bottom rig, right? I mean, come on. But there are a lot of folks out there who are showing this new interest, and they need this basic information. So we did start a Fishing for Beginners section. It's on the website. It's in the magazine. One article a month in the magazine, because of course, print magazine, you have limited space. But we keep them all up on the website. I think there's probably 20 very basic how-tos on different fish up there now. And Grant, it's really important to me that these new beginners go out and have a good time and enjoy what they're doing and remain anglers, because let's face it, when you talk about stuff like funding for bay cleanup, a strong fishing community and a strong recreational fishing voice is what gets things done. It's what changes things. So we need these new folks.
Yeah. And I think you're talking about me, Lenny, right?
Well, how long have you been fishing, Anastasia?
Oh, geez. So, yeah, it was a little after COVID started. A friend of mine took me on his boat, and I caught a perch, and I've been addicted ever since. So, yes, I love watching videos to learn, and I definitely ask questions. I think I've asked Eric, David, a couple other people out there. I'll message them just simple stuff that I really just don't know. Grant, obviously.
I know nothing. I'm like, ask those guys.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question.
Yes.
Did you ever think fishing was half as much fun as it actually is?
No. So, 14 years in the Coast Guard, people think that I should just be a natural fisherwoman. I'm not. But I never did. I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, where fishing isn't a thing, right? It's not at all. So when I came out here and I was exposed to it, I just can't get enough of it. And, like today we're working on the boat. Everything about fishing, I'm just addicted to, which is a problem because I do have a full-time job. So I got to work.
Guys, I had her helping me bottom paint my boat, which is one of the nastiest jobs.
Oh, yes.
Keeper.
Well, I was a boat driver for 3 years in the Coast Guard, so I'm used to a little bit of labor. But anything about fishing, please share.
So now, I didn't know you came out of the Coast Guard. This is news to me. And I'm going to tell you right now, instant respect. Instant respect. The Coast Guard folks, we like them. They pulled me out of the fire twice through the years when we had medical emergencies on board. And instant respect. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Well, the Coast Guard's involved in a lot of things having to do with fisheries. I mean, we have marine science technicians that work to explore what's going on with fish in the water, like you mentioned. But I also know that Fishtalk is also involved in a lot of organizations to bring awareness to community and things like that. Can you speak to some of the things that Fishtalk is involved in?
We try, it's our problem is always the same, which many people experience, and it's limited bandwidth. But we have picked a couple very specific things to try and work with. One of the big ones being Fish for a Cure, of course. Yeah. For anybody who's not familiar with it, the Fish for a Cure fishing tournament, which takes place in November, raises funds for the Anne Arundel Medical Center. These funds all go directly to helping out cancer patients by providing what they call nurse navigators. These are the nurses who help people figure out, when to take their medication, how to eat right as they're recovering from cancer treatment. It's really kind of a big deal, and we decided early on that we wanted to help sponsor it, and we do stuff like put ads in the magazine for them. Great, but then what happened was, after we started sponsoring them, we got invited to some of the meetings that they have, the organizational meetings. And at some of these meetings, they had actual beneficiaries come to the meetings, patients, former patients, and they would talk to us and just tell us, hey, we really appreciate this because. And I'll tell you what, if that doesn't bring tear to your eyes, nothing will. Talking to these folks, I mean, this program is a lifesaver. So everybody out there, listen up. You can't find a better reason to go fishing than to fish in the Fish for a Cure tournament. In fact, they just posted the website with the signups for boats, fishforcure.org. Just Google Fish for a Cure Anne Arundel, something like that. It'll pop right up. Really has become kind of I don't know, it seems like a small thing, but it's become a really big deal for us. It's very important, I think.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
Yeah.
So, going back to being a newbie again, really quick, if you don't mind, and definitely those organizations, very important. Grant knows I'm really huge about volunteering. Very important to give back to very important causes like that. And what's going on in our ecosystem, with what's going on with the fish that you mentioned, a couple of things, super important. But being a newbie again. So I've had the experience, and we talked about this before the show a little bit. First time going kayak fishing for snakehead. So out in Blackwater, launch my kayak onto what I believe is a kayak launch. And I pull out a little further, let Grant come in behind me. And the guy on the road there where he's fishing with his kids starts cursing me out. And I don't think I look threatening. But he's cursing me out. It's like, Grant, what did I do?
You sat in a little pad of lilies. It was actually out of his casting range.
Yeah.
For about 45 seconds.
Okay. Yeah.
Unexcusable.
I know I did. But anyway, so I know that before you were this great angler, you were a newbie.
Yeah.
And do you have any stories to share, like my terrible one?
Oh, whoever started cursing like that, first off, shame on them. Shame on them. But yeah, I remember when I was a kid and I had a really little boat I used to throw on the back of my pickup, and one time I pulled up next to a boat ramp and I figured, I don't need the boat ramp. I can just pull my boat out and shove it in. And there were other guys launching in the boat ramp. And when I did that, this guy came up and just started screaming at me, cursing the whole bit. And I'm like, what'd I do? And so evidently I was blocking his path where he wanted to swoop up and then back down into the ramp. And of course, today I understand that. Back then I had no idea. I never trailered a boat before. I just shoved it in the back of the pickup. And this guy just rampaged on me for 5 minutes until I finally said, I'm really glad you informed me about this. I'll never do it again. But did you really have to be such a jerk?
Yeah.
And this guy was just, he was, total hothead off the top. And it was just like, you know what? You don't have to be a jerk to people. And today, more than ever, there are a ton of newbies out there who are just getting introduced to the sport. Maybe they just bought a boat. Maybe they just bought a kayak. Maybe they just don't understand how things work at the ramp or whatever. And the truth of the matter is, if someone messes you up and you've got your system down pat, right? You know how to launch a boat in 5 seconds flat. If someone messes you up or gets in your way, there's a 99.9% chance they just have no idea they're getting in your way.
Yeah.
So being obnoxious really has there's no benefit to it. It just gets everybody upset. And I truly do wish that everybody out there who are old hands, who know what they're doing, I wish they keep this in mind and maybe be a little more welcoming to some of the newbies. This, by the way, if I can just interject, Grant, this goes right back to what you were saying before about spot burning.
Yeah.
Personally, I feel like sharing the knowledge is sharing. It's called being nice, right? And people who get all upset about spot burning, honestly, I feel like they're being selfish, at least a little bit selfish, If you're that good an angler and you've got a hot spot and there's tons of fish there and you come there and there are other people that are catching fish, God bless them. You're such a good angler. Go find another good spot, right?
Yep.
Come on.
Yeah, honestly, on the Chesapeake Bay in particular, I tell people all the time, I can give you a spot, but fish swim. Like
They
probably not there anymore. I'm going to bring in some questions from, from the audience, but from our good friend Eric Packard. Speaking of new anglers, have you heard any success stories from any of the new anglers this year?
Oh,
Interesting question, Eric. You know, the answer is yes, and many. And what's really nice is often they come in the form of reader photos, and there will be a picture often of a little kid. I just love these. I got two today from readers of little kids holding up fish. And it doesn't matter if they're big fish. They can be an 8-inch perch. Billy caught his first perch today, whatever. And people, there are so many folks out there who are so into it and having so much fun. Our reader photos for Fish Talk are literally filled through the November edition right now. That's how many are coming in, and we put in around 30 a month. So that's a lot of happy new minted anglers.
yeah.
We have Rashawn saying, "Thank you for letting me on the cover."
Yeah. Wait, and right here, boom.
Yeah, it sounds like
Awesome.
there was like a gate to get on the cover, and Rashawn's like, "Please, please, please," and you're like, "Okay." No, but Rashawn, your picture was rad, dude.
Yeah.
That was
It was a pretty epic photo, I think.
pretty epic photo.
Right?
I don't think you were let on the cover. It was just that photo demanded it, brother. Other question. We're going to get to that question in just a second, but I want to stay on the newbie sort of being treated roughly at the boat ramp. But it's not just at the boat launch, right? You'll see it, on social media. I'll be honest, I've done it. Well, actually, I don't think I've done this one. But when people get on social media and they're like, "Where's the fish?" or "Where do I catch a rockfish?" and there's always some smarty pants. It's like in the water.
Yeah.
How do you think we can better address that and maybe protect our spots, but still be able to help out that new angler?
Well, I would say a couple things. The first is, if you want to give someone a spot and you don't want to burn a spot you've been hitting lately, give them 3 spots. Give them 3 good spots, right? I can tell you right now, I could go out on the South River and I can show you 3 spots to go fishing at. And then when I go fishing, there's only a 1 in 3 chance that person is going to be at the spot. And I have given my spots away. I mean, the Chesapeake Guide is proof of that, right?
Right.
But as I said in the guide, I tried to say with different spots, this one's really good. It'll be hot like 1 out of every 3 years. This one's pretty good. It'll be hot 1 out of every 5 years. This one's okay. It'll be hot 1 out of every 10 years. The spots change. They change constantly and rapidly, as you point out. Fish have tails. Even a good hot spot that doesn't get touched by anybody is not likely to last more than a few weeks. 2-3 weeks, a month is a ton of time for the same spot to remain hot. So, honestly, I say help those people out. I do. I say help them out, tell them where to go, maybe give them multiple spots so they have something to choose from. And what will happen is they're not going to go back to that spot every day of the week. They will figure out how to catch fish, and they will figure out how to find their own spots. They will.
Because they will. And I think, providing them with these multiple spots, that's brilliant. Because it will allow them to catch on to trends. Because I'm just going to throw a guess out here, Lenny, that your 3 spots on the South River probably have structure and current, right?
Probably.
There's probably a point, and there's probably something in the water, or there's a little bottleneck in the river where the water runs faster in that area. But I tell people a lot that when they ask for spots, I'm like, I can give you spots, but it'd be better if I gave you, the trends that I look for. But you've got me inspired. I'm going to give a spot.
Awesome.
Sharps Island Light. I've caught my fair share of trout over 20 this year and last. So there it is, folks.
Well, this goes right back to another thing that is great when you're talking to new people is to tell them, give them a river and like you said, a trend. One of the things I love telling folks when people ask me for a spot, a friend of mine is in the chop tank. I say a friend of mine, an acquaintance made through Fish Talk, in the chop tank, bought a house over there, never had fished it, said, where do I fish? My response was riprap, right?
Yep.
Just find riprap and cast to it,
Right.
especially
Yep.
points. You will catch fish sooner or later. And I would be willing to bet that that guy probably has more good spots in the chop tank today than I do. Because that's what he does. He just goes around, he looks for the riprap, he looks for the points, he hits them, he catches fish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we experienced, what was it, 2 days ago when we were coming back towards Chesapeake Beach. It wasn't even a spot. It was just birds, thousands of them out of nowhere. On our way back, we were out for several hours. I think you caught, what'd you catch? You caught
a
dink
a
and
rockfish.
it was nothing. And then we come back and they're everywhere.
Mm.
So it wasn't actually necessarily a spot, but it was just that perfect moment.
Yeah.
Where you could have caught a whole bunch of fish, but we were on our way back.
I would admit any day of the week that it's better to be lucky than good.
Yeah.
A question from Lee Super. I hope I'm not messing your name up, Lee. We knew it was going to come, but what is the pattern for rockfish this time of year?
So, it's interesting. It's been shaken up in the last week. This cool weather, I found, at least in my area, it's shaking it up a little bit. Normally the pattern is the fish try and go deep. They go as deep as they can until they run out of oxygen. They try and stay cool. If you can locate them, you can pound on them, which is kind of not great because the way they've been balling up north by Hodges, by Tolchester, it allows, honestly, for a lot of carnage. Boats just sit on top of them and crush them. But since this cool weather set in, I've been finding them shallow, 4 feet of water. Over structure, little 3-4 inch paddle tails they've been smacking. Dawn is a great time. Dusk is a great time. I don't see too many dawns anymore. I'm a little old for that now. I don't like to get up at 4 a.m. But, dusk works just about as well. And so right at the moment, at least, they're shallow at those times. Now, I'm sure that won't last. I think the weather's supposed to get real hot again. Yeah, they'll probably head deep again. Until that weather breaks and we get a little bit of a chill in the air. I would say that's very likely. Meanwhile, I do want to point this out. Meanwhile, while the fish, the bulk of the keeper-sized rockfish are going deep, looking for enough oxygen but still cool water, you will see lots of schools of little teeny rockfish breaking water, right? Those 10 inchers. You're going to see them. They'll be up top. They'll be busting on glass minnow. They're just trying to get a quick meal. And I would tell anglers, after you fish for a little while under birds like that, if all you catch is like those 8-10 inch fish, move on, because you're not going to find your big keepers in that stuff. And meanwhile, you're dragging all these little fish through the water on a hook. I mean, move on. Now, at the same time, we've got a lot of other stuff setting up right now. Spanish mackerel are coming on strong right now. Snapper blues have been coming on. The cutlass fish, the sea trout. Got a million options.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about that. The Spanish mackerel, it's really seems to have come on this last week or so.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
I haven't had a lot of chance to get out in the last week. I think I'm turning into one of those guys that works on his boat more than he actually fishes on it. But I need to repeat it to myself. Don't work on your boat more than you fish on it. But
I got to ask you, Rand. Wait a minute. Hold the phone. What kind of boat do you have?
Oh, it's a man. Oh God, I've removed all the branding and put my own branding on it. So I've forgotten. It's a 20-foot center console Sunbird Neptune. But I pretty much replaced every single thing on the boat. So I don't think you can call it that brand anymore.
That's a boat. Mine's on its second rebuild.
Yeah. Tell us about your boat. We're going to go off script a little bit. But
I got an oddball. Purely because honestly, I have a really bad back, and I can't do the slamming through the wave thing anymore. I did it when I was a kid. I can't do it today. I'll end up crippled for a week. So I have a Power Cat, which eliminates the pound, has plenty of quirks, of its own, but it does eliminate the pound. It's a 22 Glacier base center console with twin Suzuki 90s. And for me, it's the right boat. It's a little bit of an oddball, but for me, it's the right boat. And I will say, it's an awesome boat for light tackle casting because, the Cat carries its beam all the way forward. There's no point at the front. So we don't lose any room up front. I can have 2, 3
that's
people.
cool.
Yeah, I can have 2, 3 people forward to the console casting, and it's not too cramped. Works out very well.
Important.
Yeah, the bow of my boat gets a little bit tight. Have you put a spot lock trolling motor on that thing yet?
Oh, you're breaking my heart here. It's in my shed. The Minn Code is in my shed right now. It was supposed to go on the boat in February, along with an all-new Humminbird system, new radar, new MFD, and then COVID hit and just screwed everything up. And I'm currently waiting for one more piece. One more piece has to come in. Everybody knows about all these supply chain issues. But I've fished on plenty of boats with spot lock, and it is a game changer, and I can't wait to get a hold of it.
No, you know why I'm not fishing this week? I decided to do all this boat maintenance because I broke the prop on my trolling motor, and I had to wait a few days for another one to come in. It's because Lenny, I cannot fish without it anymore. Like if I don't have it, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't.
Count your blessings if all you have to do is wait a few days. It's not a month.
Oh no, it came today surprisingly, and I threw it on there.
Oh.
I thought about it. I was like, should I cancel the show and go fish? I'm kidding. But so yeah, we started to talk about mackerel. If you're out on your boat, now that we've decided we're burning spots, although where are you going? What are you doing?
Let me write this down.
How are you bending a rod to fill that cooler full of mackerel?
Well, 3 things. First thing, there's no such thing as burning a spot with mackerel because they swim more than anything else, right? They're here today, they're there tomorrow. Second thing, you got 2 choices. You can troll them or you can cast light tackle for them. Trolling them is unquestionably more effective. It is also unquestionably more boring. Yeah. So, pick your poison. If you want to catch numbers, putting a 2 or 3 inch, really little gold or silver spoon. I love gold for mackerel. 25 feet behind a inline planer. Use number 1s and number 2s and number 3s. That is the way to harvest the most mackerel possible. Now, if you want to have fun, get out the light tackle. You can throw jigging spoons. Something I found fascinating. This was not last season, but the season before last. Some folks came fishing with me. Julie from, what's the name of that tackle company? Oh God, I'm blanking. Hardhead Baits.
I was blanking pre-show. Now you're blanking. What was it?
Hardhead Baits. Julie and her husband, whose name I'm blanking on also. Gosh, nice guy. Dang it. Anyway, the Hardhead Baits people came fishing with me, and they said, we're going to bring our popping cork rigs and catch mackerel on them. And I said, popping corks, mackerel? Right, what are you talking about? So they brought the popping corks rigs, which are straight up popping cork rigs, nothing crazy about them, just like you use for reds or trout down south.
Yeah.
And I'll be danged if we didn't catch a bunch of mackerel. Now, you don't fish them like you fish a popping cork rig. You cast them out, and then you chug them. You constantly move them. It's not the pop, pop, wait. It's just a constant chug. But I'll tell you what, it actually outfished the spoon that I was casting until I finally got over my stubbornness and said, yeah, all right, I'm taking off the spoon. Give me one of those popping cork rigs.
So when you say chugging it, if I'm standing next to you watching you work the popping cork, how quickly is it moving through the water? Like how quickly are you reeling?
Fast. It's a constant pop. I mean, it's fast. It's fast. And of course, folks who fish for mackerel probably know, and beginners probably won't. mackerel like it fast. If you throw out a spoon and you reel it back slowly and lackadaisically, they're going to ignore it. I mean, you want to rip it by them, literally as fast as you can turn a reel. You know, we did a testing one time for an article. At the time, I think I was writing for Boating Magazine, where we measured speed with spinning reels. And what we found was, even with the best, fastest, highest speed spinning reels, 3,000 to 5,000 series, you throw that handle around as fast as you physically can. I mean, as hard as you can. You really can't get a lure much above 6 miles an hour. You struggle to get something moving faster than 6 miles an hour. And then it's like 6.1, 6.2. Of course, if you're trolling for mackerel, you're probably doing, 8, 8.5. So you can't go too fast for mackerel.
Yeah, the trolling is 7 miles. It always feels weird when I'm trolling for mackerel and I'm like putting out significant weight. I'm like plowing through the water.
Yeah. So are you familiar with the phenomenon of Mach speed?
Oh, I know that you gotta rip it through the water.
We have a grant.
I was taught for mackerel, and I've seen people fishing right next to me that outfish me, but I trust the person who, Walleye Pete told me my method for mackerel, and I'm sure I'm doing something wrong, because he said, cast, and Pete, if you're watching, correct me, cast, and as soon as that spoon hits the water, you go 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, and then you crank the living heck out of it, right? And then pause and let it sink, and then crank, then pause, then crank as fast as you can, then pause. What's the phenomenon that you were going to bring up?
So first I'm going to say Pete is good. When Pete speaks, I listen. Okay, Pete's good. But we have a reader named Walt Tomkowski, who actually lives not far from me, and I fished with him several times. He is a applications engineer, and he does some kind of crazy engineering stuff for the military that I can't wrap my head around. But he applied the engineer brain to trolling for mackerel. And he has this table that takes into account the water temperature. You look at the water temperature, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong. So I'm just going to tell people to go, if you go to fishtallmag.com, there's a search bar for the website. Just plug in Mach speed and it'll pop up. He has a table where you look at the
M-A-C-K or M-A-C?
M-A-C-K, Mach speed. And it's like water temperature minus 10 divided by something. And it tells you the speed that's ideal for catching mackerel. And he came up with this formula after recording the water temperature and the speed and the fish he was catching. And I've used it. He came out with this a couple of years ago. We put it in the magazine. I've used it several times since, and he's right. Like, he nailed it. The engineer brain works.
That's really crazy. We've gotten some. Oh yeah, Rashawn said he wants to catch mackerel now. But we've gotten some requests to talk about redfish from the listeners, from the watchers, and bull reds are getting ready to move into the bay if they haven't already. Have you heard anything about that?
Interesting you would ask about that, because earlier today I was going through the reader reports that were emailed in to forward them to my daughter, who she calls all the tackle shops and charter guys and puts together the report itself. And what I saw was a lot of they should be here any day.
Yeah.
I did not see any catching in Maryland waters. I did see catching in Virginia waters. But it was not prime yet. It was not prime. It was a fish here, a fish there. Of course, probably for 3 weeks now, we've been hearing about a red here and a red there from areas like the Target Ship, the Tangier Sound, which is coming on bait. Whole different ball game than I think what you're talking about, where they ball up under the schools, right? And you're dropping down and jigging for, whole different ball game, of course. So I think maybe it's just a little bit early for that. It could have happened by now, but if it has, it hasn't. The info hasn't made its way to me. That doesn't mean it hasn't happened. Doesn't mean someone hasn't been getting them. You know.
You think the cool weather we've had maybe has slowed it down by a day or so? Or
I don't know, maybe so. But you know, Grant, think about this. We talked earlier about how the mackerel thing really just took off in the last week, right?
Yeah.
And normally the big red under the breaking fish thing takes off when you've got a mix of mackerel and blues just churning water, right? So, you know, it does speak to, hey, it should be time, right? It should be happening, but maybe it's just cranking up.
Anastasia, I came home the other day and she'd been on social media and she's like, Grant, I want to catch one of those giant mutant goldfish. And I was like, like a carp? And she's like, no, they're in the bay. They're coming in the bay. And I was like, redfish? Bull reds? And I showed her a picture. She's like, that's it. So Anastasia's, she's gonna catch a bull red that's gonna blow anything I've caught out of the water. That seems to be the trend, right?
Okay. Anastasia, I want you to remember this, okay? Upright vertical shot, leave headroom, and leave room at the bottom for the words. It'll be right here. It'll be right there.
But yeah, I mean, the trend is like, I do something for years. She spends a few days on it and beats me out.
I do the opposite of what everyone tells me to do, and it seems to work.
This is my 4th season, Lenny. If I had my way, I would have had you on season 1. But I was just getting started. She's on, what, this is your 2nd episode?
Yes.
And she already gets Lenny. So, you know what? The world isn't fair.
We're going to do it.
But we're trying to get, you know, let's say you're trying to help Anastasia, a new fish, a new anglist.
Please,
as we say.
feel free to help me.
Get on one of the mutant goldfish we know as redfish. What are you telling her?
Ooh, the mutant goldfish are not easy. That's the first thing. Plan on taking 5 trips and hope you're successful before the end of the 5th one. You might be on the 1st one. You might be looking at trip number 8. You know, it's not a very predictable fishery. Going with someone like Pete is a good first step. But even if you fish with Pete and you want to go for reds, he'll tell you, if it doesn't happen, we're not going to beat our head against the wall all day trying. We'll go do something else. Because it's one of those things that, you know, sometimes it happens and sometimes it doesn't. That said, what you want to do is look for the birds, look for the schools. If you have a good sonar, you want a scanner really as opposed to the traditional fish finder. Yeah, I see plenty of running and gunning. That's absolutely right. Be prepared to keep moving, looking at different patches of birds, different schools of fish. Good sonar, you want to look on there. When you see those big marks down underneath all the activity, that's really when you want to start, you know, sticking to the spot and trying it really hard. That's when it gets, you know, you have a better likelihood when you start seeing those big marks. It's not an easy gig. It's not an easy gig.
I've heard guys talk about redfish, particularly bull red marks on a fish finder, and they, you know, I'm like, how do you know they're bull reds? And they send me a picture, and they're like, because there they are, and like, I can't tell what I'm looking at. It could be big anything. Do you have the ability to just look at a sonar and tell if it's redfish or not?
Grant, that's a really funny question because people ask me that all the time about the black drum. Of course, the black drum run has been really depressed. We're going on 5, 6, 8 years now. Used to be we had in the middle Chesapeake one of the best giant black drum runs on the face of the planet. I mean, if you caught one that was 30 pounds, you were like, why'd I get a baby? You know, they were all 50, 60, 80 pounds. And people used to ask me all the time, how do you know when you're looking at these big fish? And I'll tell you what I would tell them. Same thing with the reds. Don't worry about it. When you look at your fish finder and go, oh my God, what is that? You found them. There's no mistaking it. These are gigantic marks that really, you know, you're not going to see anything else in the bay that's going to make marks like that. I mean, they're just massive. They're bigger than anything you ever see. So worry less about will I know what I'm looking at, and worry more about, like Mike said, running and gunning, moving, hitting all these spots, trying where there are birds, one birds to the next batch of birds. I wish I had them. They're on my boat. I would dig them out. Here is actually a really good tip, not only for this fishery, but for any that depends on locating bird action. Bite the bullet and spend the money to get a good pair of gyroscopically stabilized binoculars.
Pause, Lenny. Spend the money on a good pair of stabilizing binoculars.
Yes.
How much is a good pair of? We're talking like $1,200.
Yes, you're gonna spend $1,000 or more. You're gonna, but I tell people I use a pair of Fujinon 14 by 40s.
Yeah.
Your standard marine binoculars magnify 7 times. Cheap stabilized get you up to 10, 12. These go to 14. There are some that go even higher. The difference is I find more fish with those Fujinons than I do with my fish finder, particularly in the fall. And that's truth. I mean, that's just the way it is. Fujinon's not an advertiser. I got no connection with those folks. It's just the way it is. I have launched at Sandy Point. Okay, Sandy Point, right, Bay Bridge.
Yeah.
And spotted fish at the sewer pipe. Spotted birds at the sewer pipe. 4 or 5 birds dipping and diving and going over there and caught fish. I've launched at Point Lookout, run a few miles, and then put up the binoculars and found fish at Smith Point. I don't know offhand how far that is. It's more than 5 or 6 miles.
Yeah, but it's not undoable. I mean, in a boat like yours, you can. Yeah, not a big deal.
With those binoculars on your side, you will spot flocks of birds that are so far away that you'll run for them for 10, 15 minutes and go, was I crazy? And then pull back the throttles and reacquire,
Last time I was at Point Lookout, a bunch of guys pulled in from Smith Point with, I don't know, I think Pat is actually on the show tonight. I was with him, and guys had, I think, 4 or 5 cobia on with them. So nice big cobia. So, you're sort of saying they're hit or miss, Lenny, right?
Yeah, they are.
So, to keep yourself from missing, what's your strategy going to be, right? Probably going out targeting Mac, and then if you see reds, have a rod rigged up for them.
I can tell you what my strategy will be, and I should say, this is true for me. There are probably some other guys out there who focus solely on this kind of fishing that do better than me, right? No one can be the best at everything, right? I'm sure there are guys out there who catch more than I do, and I haven't even really targeted that fishery in a number of years. But whenever I go fishing, be it for this or whatever, if I'm not catching fish, I don't beat my head against the wall. I don't try and fight nature. I try and adjust and adapt. So if I go out and I check 5 schools and I don't find any big reds, I will probably start trying to catch mackerel or rockfish or specks or something else, and then maybe come back to it in a few hours. Try again later. There are a lot of folks out there who get really focused on one thing. And sometimes, the conditions just aren't right. And you can't beat Mother Nature. If you've got a really strong wind coming out of the west and you want to fish on the eastern shore, but there's going to be 3-foot seas over there, stay on the west side. Don't force yourself to go running over there because there are fish over there. Stay on the west side. Stay where it's calm. Try something different. Adjust, adapt, bob and weave,
So if you have that rod ready for redfish, you're chasing Macs or blues or whatever it is that you have, and that giant, school of woe, swims under you, and you look at your fish finder and you see these huge marks. What are you dropping on those mutant goldfish to get, increase your chances of getting one on the end of your line?
Interesting question. So historically, I would have said a jigging spoon, and I really like the resin spoons, like the Marias. Shimano has some. Wait a minute, I think I got one sitting right over here. Hold on a sec. I got one right here. Here it comes. I love these guys. I actually had these out because I was on family vacation at a lake in Pennsylvania last week, and we were trying to catch spotted bass when we were jigging these. But these spoons, they have like a resin coat over them.
Okay.
They sink really fast, right? You can get this guy, this little guy, he's only like an ounce. You can get him down 30, 40 feet, no problem. And they shine really nice. They flash really nice. Catch a lot of fish on those. So historically, that's what I would say. I would say the jigging spoon. Go to the jigging spoon, partially because, yeah, they like it, they'll hit it. Partially because it sinks fast. It's critical to be able to sink fast so that you don't have those smaller fish up top grabbing a hold of it before you can get down, right? With that specific fishery. However, I have gotten a lot of feedback from a lot of folks lately who have been going to big, fast sinking jig heads and plastics. And they've been making that work.
So BKD with a 2-ounce jig head, or is that too big?
That might not be too big. What I've seen is guys using the GIs. You know, they have that flat profile. They seem to sink really quickly for their weight. Ounce and a half, maybe 2. And putting on slender profile plastics like a BKD, like a Boston, like a Z-Man. The Z-Mans are really picking up steam in our waters these days. Stuff like that. And they've been having success. I can't attest to it personally. I haven't done it personally. This is what's always done it for me. But I've been hearing more and more about that. And the next time I get down in that zone and I want to try something like that, I may well give a plastic a shot.
So for those guys, I saw the jigging spoon that you had. For guys that just want to run to Walmart and grab something real quick, even though I don't endorse going to Walmart, I'll buy from your local people.
I was about to complain.
Buy from your local guys. But if you go to the tackle shop in Solomon's, right, you can get that's pretty much the same as a sting silver, right?
So a sting silver, pretty much. A sting silver is a little different. The sting silver has more of a wobble on a fall. They don't fall quite as quick. They're good lures. Don't get me wrong. They're good lures. The resin spoons have a talent for just falling really fast. And you will find these in the local stores. You will see them around if you ask for a resin spoon. I know I may have gotten these at Anglers. I don't want to swear to it because I could be wrong, but I may have. I know I've seen them there. Pretty darn sure I've seen these at All Tackle. I think most of the local guys have these. Sting silver would be a traditional historical pick, though.
Yeah, so I know I had that in my box, so that was a selfish question for me. Guys, we're going to talk about reds for a few more minutes, so if you have questions on reds specifically for Lenny, this would be the time to do it. But speaking of redfish trends, right? Where are you most likely to see them? How deep is it? And then it's a 2-part question. You're dropping your jigging spoon. How are you working that jig?
Okay, so I'm going to hit the first part first so I don't forget it. You're going to drop it down to the depth you see the fish on the meter at, or your best approximation thereof. Give sweeps up, fast sweeps up, and then, this is the critical part, people, drop that tip as quickly as you possibly can while maintaining minimal tension on the line, okay? You want this thing to fall as naturally as possible. You don't want to slow it down, but you got to maintain that absolute minimum tension so that you feel it when a fish hits, so that you know. If you go fishing and you find that you usually go back up to jig and hook a fish and you're like, whoa, I've got a fish on there, and you didn't feel the hit, that normally is because you're letting slack in the line as it falls. You just won't feel the hit. You might still catch a fish when you go back up and you stick it, but that fish may well spit it out before you get that chance. So you want to maintain that minimal tension so you feel the hit. Now, where am I going? I'm gonna call it Sharps Island Light to Salmon's Island to the target ship. Draw a big giant triangle. that's kind of the prime zone. They could pop up anywhere in there. Really could be in any depth. I mean, under 10 feet, you're probably spinning your wheels. Although I have heard of the big reds showing up shallower than that. I mean, it happens. But generally speaking, 20, 30 feet of water, something like that. Cove Point, that zone, that whole general area. Sometimes you'll find them right out in the middle of absolutely nowhere, just chewing on bait. Could be in 60 feet of water. Nothing, no structure. This is not a structure thing.
60. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it could be anywhere. This is not a structure thing. This is a fish chasing bait, like mackerel and blues, rockfish, and redfish being, at the top of the food pyramid, saying, "Oh, I don't have to work for my meal. I can just swim around under all these fish that are chewing it up like crazy and pick up the leftovers." They're taking the prime spot. Same thing happens with big rockfish, by the way. Haven't seen it in some years. But in the fall, historically, when you had fish breaking water, you might be catching 20, 22, 24, 26 inches up top breaking water. You get down below them, you start getting into 30, 32, 36 inches. That was kind of, what we saw a lot. Now, recent falls, I can't speak for everybody else, but personally, a 30-inch fish has become a big fall fish, which didn't used to be the case. A 36, a 38, that used to be a big fall fish. Last couple seasons, a 28 even has been like, wow, a big one, So times are changing, but, this is the way it is.
Yeah, I'm going to go back a bit. I know we're running out of time, but Lenny, I probably wanted to ask you this question for 3 years. You see people using, you brought it up earlier, which reminded me, you see people using the popping cork down south, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you get down in South Carolina, even North Carolina, on south, all the way to Louisiana, they wear that popping cork out for speckled trout. Why not on the bay?
Grant, I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. I don't know. I can tell you that, for the different work that I've done through the years, I've spent a ton of time fishing down there, and we've used a ton of popping corks. And probably 20 years ago, I brought popping cork rigs back with me because they worked so good and tried them up here. I honestly didn't catch much on it. I mean, I abandoned it. I abandoned it. And I haven't seen popping corks work the same up here the way that they do down there. What I've seen here is quick, rapid. Down there, it's usually pop, pop, pause. Pop, pop, pause. I've tried it. I've tried it over and over again up here. Never worked for me. I don't know why. I don't know why. Sorry, man. I don't have a solid answer for you.
Pete, I ask everybody on the show. Pete, Lenny. Pete was on the chat. I was thinking about him. Lenny, I asked everyone on the show, what's the craziest fishing story?
Man. So I got a million of them, and I've got none of them. Right? Because every day is just so darn different. But I got to tell you, the one that just really sticks in my mind, it doesn't even have anything to do with the bay. But a couple years ago, a friend of mine, Josh Lowry, he's a kid who grew up next door to me, and today he's the mate on a boat out of Ocean City, and he's made of boats in the bay. He called me up, and he said, "We're going sword fishing." And I said, "Sword fishing? Oh my
sword fishing, got it.
Sword fishing? Yeah." I'm like, "Oh my God, really?" So I was hit. It turned out the calendar was open. I was free. I could go. Now, I had a boat. I ran out of Ocean City for 10 years. And every season, I would try sword fishing a couple times. And in my best year, I caught one and might have had 3 bites, right? Not an easy fish to nail down. And I went out with him, and he had it nailed down. And we went 8 for 11. 8
Wow.
fish, 11 bites. Yeah, it was just off the hook. Totally insane. But the one thing that I will never forget is one swordfish, which wasn't even particularly large. It was like, I don't know, $1.20, something like that. It attacked the boat. And I don't mean it like swam towards us. I mean, it attacked the boat. It was slashing its bill into fiberglass. And it was probably one of the most just, and actually I wasn't on the rod. I was on the helm. I was running the boat at the time. And I like look over my shoulder, and this fish is trying to kill the boat. It was just trying to kill it. And there just aren't many experiences I can recall that were quite as exciting as looking at this fish that really wasn't like all that big, trying to kill a 28-foot boat.
Any idea, in today's dollars figure, how much damage the swordfish did to the boat?
Oh, you know what? He didn't mess it up. He really didn't mess it up. He just whacked against the fiberglass, and then we stuck him and dragged him in. So, we cut his attack short.
Right.
I do love cobia damage. Another one, actually, that totally sticks in my mind was when one of my sons got his first cobia, which was about a 70-pounder. Hefty fish was on my boat. Anyone who's caught cobia knows those fish are nothing to toy with. Like, they will hurt you, right?
Yeah.
And as it came into the boat, it bent the net at a 90-degree angle, ripped through the mesh of the net, and then proceeded to bust out the undergunnel rod racks in my boat. Like, they went flying across the deck. Don't even know what happened. Rod racks flying across the deck. They were screwed into fiberglass. And then one of the other guys on board held up his hand, and he was dripping blood out of his thumb. None of us to this day know how. No clue. But anytime you bring a cobia into the boat, you risk damage. So, you're going to love fish damage, right? How cool is fish damage on the boat?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Unless they throw a treble hook into your thumb.
Ooh, that's no fun.
That fish net story reminded me, like, that is a sinking feeling when the fish tells you that you need a bigger net.
So wait a minute now. What's your craziest fish story? Have we heard yours? I haven't heard it.
Oh, man. Let's see. Gosh, my daughter's sitting like 7 feet away from me on the other side of this light. So I'm a little hesitant to tell it. When I first, oh gosh, this is embarrassing. Thanks, Lenny.
I put you on the spot. I want to hear it.
I hadn't been on the bay that long. I only had a kayak. I was like, I'm a great swimmer. Wear your life jacket, everyone. Everyone wear your life jacket. Always wear your life jacket. I felt like I was, I was immortal and I couldn't be hurt. But just, came home from work one day, didn't check the radar, went out to a hot spot right out in front of Herring Bay where I live. And it was about 2 miles offshore. And, I was just jigging, caught a couple of nice fish, looked behind me, and I saw a storm rolling in, coming out over Broadwater Creek where I live. And I was like, I probably should head back. I had my GoPro on me, and if you guys look at my channel, you can actually see it. I think it's like, don't be this stupid at home or something. I wasn't that good at coming up with titles. But you could see in the GoPro footage that it was about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, but it was completely black, pouring down rain. And I was doing one of these numbers trying to get home, paddling, and you could see a crab pot, and I was making no progress, pushing against the wind. And then the GoPro battery finally died. I started getting closer to shore. I completely lost energy. The wind turned me 90 degrees almost immediately and threw me into a piling. Ooh. And the next thing I remember, I somehow got adrenaline and, dragged my kayak 100 yards to the riffraff and up onto the ground and threw up. So,
wow.
Didn't have a life jacket on, and somehow, adrenaline got me to shore. But
now, yeah. I want to bounce the same question right at Anastasia, but I'm really hoping that you don't have a story like that one.
No, not yet.
Good.
The biggest thing is I had hooked to snakehead the other day, and got super excited, got it out of the water, and bloop, lost it twice. So some of my curse words came out, which are really PG, that I screamed across the water, but that's about it right now.
Fiddlesticks.
Fiddlesticks. Too many crickets. You know, I was cursing. You would not want to hear me like this, so it was not good.
Well, snakeheads are famous for that ability, right?
Yeah.
They're not. You haven't caught them until the lid to the cooler is closed, and then they might come back out later.
Yes. Yeah. Well, you know, Lenny, I am Fishtalk's biggest fan. You know, I offered to buy a year subscription of your magazine just to get some video together for Grant's birthday video that I put on his Facebook page. So you know I'm your biggest fan. But
a year subscription of a free magazine. Yeah.
That's how desperate I was.
I love it.
So I wanted to know, because seriously, I do really enjoy picking up Fishtalk when we leave the grocery store all the time looking. And I saw somebody's face on it. I was like, yeah, that was really cool. But I was wondering, what is the future of Fishtalk? Any plans or anything good you want to share with us? I'm excited.
Yeah, you know what? So I'll tell you my plan, right? Because I can only do what I'm going to do.
Which is pretty much the plan. I mean, it's like, Zach, do this.
Well, you know, we will keep going. We will keep producing. We will keep focusing on how to, where to fishing. And we're not going to stop. And we're going to continue doing stuff like putting out editions through the dead of the winter when, you know, the advertising certainly is not lucrative. But we decided originally we were going to do that as a service to the readers, because we didn't want to tell people, oh, yeah, no Fishtalk for the next 2 months. You got to wait. You know, we're going to keep doing stuff like that. We're going to do our darndest to keep bringing fresh, constant information. And we'll do our best to pitch in where we can and make sure people are aware about some of the environmental issues we face, as per our earlier discussion about water quality. You know, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. It seems to be going pretty good. People seem to like it. And I have zero intention of slowing down even a little bit. I can tell you one other big Fishtalk plan. You want to hear one other big Fishtalk plan? That's having Grant and Anastasia on my Fishtalk boat to go fishing on the bay.
I would be honored. Yeah.
The email's coming. The email's coming the moment we sign off to look for the date.
That sounds like a plan that I could get behind easily. And you're saying the email comes the moment we sign off?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to start tapping.
Okay, so I'm signing off right now. Bye, everybody. Lenny, it's been a blast. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to say one more thing about Fishtalk. You guys are going to do fantastic, not only because of your knowledge and your experience, but you really have a fantastic team built around you. I know some of these guys really well, and I mean, they're incredible fishermen. All right, Zach, you're a pretty good fisherman. Super knowledgeable, funny, intelligent, just great guys to be around. So you've done a fantastic job building your team.
Thank you. I got to say, when we started, I didn't know Eric. Eric came into the picture after we got started, and that's been a total blessing. But when we first started up, of course, Zach was there at from day one, even before day one, before the magazine existed, he was in the conversations. And one of the great pleasures of producing Fishtalk has been getting to know him and getting to fish with him, especially because whenever we go fishing, I get to catch more.
Yeah.
No, seriously, in all honesty, it really has been a tremendous pleasure to get to work with Zach, to get to work with Eric, the whole team. You know, our sales team doesn't get much exposure. Those guys do a fantastic job. Our sales guy, Eric, another Eric, is awesome. Chris is awesome. Mary, who runs Spin Sheet, is awesome. All the folks over there. We have a new person in production now helping us too. And we have a new salesperson. We got a lot of new blood coming in. So we're going to keep the juice flowing. Absolutely.
Well, you guys represent everyone. I think that's a really great quality of your magazine. And, you know, just from two fans, Anastasia and I would just like to say thank you for all you do.
Oh, that's so kind of you to say. Thanks.
You're welcome. Lenny, thank you guys so much. Thank you so much. And everybody who tuned in tonight, thank you for your support. And next week we got David Sikorsky from the CCA. So we're really looking forward to that. And I'm really looking forward to my invitation to be on your boat, Lenny.
It's on the way. And I'll be tuning in to listen to Sikorsky.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Take care, everybody.
Just like the